A millionaire, a deadly weapon, one victim fighting for their life, and a crime scene that would expose the darkest secrets hiding behind mansion walls. This isn't a story about privilege protecting someone. This is about privilege destroying someone. And what happened that night changes everything you think you know about wealth and violence.
The date was etched in official records with clinical precision, but for those who lived through it, time seemed to fracture. In an exclusive gated community where the average home value exceeded $3 million, where security was supposed to be impenetrable, and where neighbors valued privacy above all else, violence shattered the illusion of safety. This is the story of a millionaire charged with deadly weapon assault. But it's so much more than a simple crime report. It's about the collision of two worlds, extreme wealth and extreme violence. It's about what happens when someone who believes themselves above consequences finally faces them. And it's about the victims who refuse to let money silence their truth. Our subject, let's call him Marcus Sullivan, though that's not his real name for legal reasons, was everything society tells us to admire. Self-made fortune in commercial real estate, luxury vehicles, country club memberships, philanthropic galas. His social media showed a life of enviable excess, private jets, exotic vacations, wine collections worth more than most people's homes. But investigators would soon discover that behind the Instagram-perfect facade, something far darker was brewing. Neighbors later reported hearing arguments from his property. Staff members quit without explanation. And certain patterns began emerging in police call logs that, in retrospect, painted a chilling picture. The weapon would become central to this case, not just as evidence, but as a symbol of how someone with everything could risk it all in a moment of violence. The night of the incident began ordinarily enough. Security camera footage would later show Marcus's luxury vehicle entering his property at 8:47 p.m. The gate closed behind him. From the outside, everything appeared normal in this sanctuary of wealth. But inside those walls, a confrontation was about to explode. According to witness statements compiled by investigators, tensions had been escalating for weeks. Business deals gone wrong. Personal relationships fracturing. The kind of pressure that money can't actually solve. No matter how much of it you have, what happened next would be pieced together from multiple sources: forensic evidence, surveillance footage, witness testimony, and the victim's own harrowing account. Around 10:15 p.m., neighbors reported hearing what one described as aggressive shouting, then something that sounded like furniture breaking. In this neighborhood where everyone valued discretion, where looking the other way was an unspoken rule, 3 separate households still felt compelled to call security. The private security officer who responded first would later testify that when he arrived at the gate, everything seemed quiet. Too quiet. The mansion's windows glowed with that distinctive cold blue light of modern LED fixtures. Nothing appeared out of place. He almost drove away, but then he heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold. A scream. Not anger, not argument. Pure terror. What that security officer found when he convinced dispatch to let him enter the property would haunt him for the rest of his life. The front door was ajar. Inside, signs of struggle. Overturned furniture. And in the center of it all, a victim who had barely survived an encounter with deadly violence. The 911 call came at 10:31 p.m. The recording, played later in court, is almost unbearable to hear. The security officer's voice shaking. "I need ambulance. I need police. I need everyone now. There's a victim here and ... Jesus. There's so much blood." Police arrived within 6 minutes. What they discovered would form the basis of one of the most serious charges the wealthy community had ever seen. The victim was conscious but critically injured. The weapon, which due to ongoing legal proceedings I cannot describe in specific detail, was recovered at the scene. and Marcus Sullivan was found in another part of the mansion, exhibiting what officers described as altered mental state, potentially under influence of substances. Detective Sarah Chun, lead investigator on the case, would later describe the scene. "In 20 years of investigating violent crimes, I've never seen such a stark contrast. The wealth surrounding us was extraordinary. Original artwork on the walls, imported marble floors, and in the middle of all that luxury, an attempted murder scene. The evidence was overwhelming and immediate. The weapon with biological evidence victims, account matching physical evidence, security footage showing no one else entering or leaving forensic evidence throughout. Multiple rooms, defensive wounds on the victim incriminating. Statements made before Miranda rights, but here's where the case took a turn that made it national news. Marcus Sullivan's first call wasn't to 911. It wasn't to his family. It was to his attorney, a high-powered defense lawyer who arrived on scene before the ambulance even transported the victim to the hospital. The message was clear. This wasn't going to be a simple arrest and prosecution. This was going to be a battle between justice and wealth's ability to complicate it. Paramedics worked frantically to stabilize the victim. The injuries were severe enough that survival was uncertain for those first critical hours. The victim was rushed to a trauma center while police secured the massive crime scene. Marcus Sullivan was taken into custody at 11:47 p.m., officially charged with assault with a deadly weapon causing great bodily injury. The bail amount shocked even seasoned legal observers, $5 million. He posted it by morning. As investigators dug deeper, disturbing patterns emerged. This wasn't an isolated incident, it was the culmination of escalating behavior that wealth had helped conceal. Financial records subpoenaed by prosecutors revealed something troubling. Marcus had recently suffered massive business losses. The real estate empire was collapsing. Properties were being foreclosed. Investors were threatening lawsuits. The perfect life showcased on social media was a carefully constructed lie covering financial catastrophe. Former employees began coming forward, protected by prosecutors from retaliation. Their stories painted a picture of someone whose behavior had been deteriorating for months. Housekeeper who quit after witnessing frightening rage episodes. A business partner who filed a restraining order, then mysteriously dropped it after what friends suspected was a substantial payout, a previous incident at his country club that was handled privately with a six-figure settlement and ironclad NDA. The pattern was clear. Money had been used repeatedly to make problems disappear, to silence witnesses, to avoid accountability, but this time was different. This time the injuries were too severe, the evidence too overwhelming, the victim too determined to seek justice. Detective Chun's team uncovered something else. Text messages suggesting premeditation. Communications from earlier that day showing Marcus knew exactly who would be at his home that evening. Browser history revealing searches for information about assault, penalties versus attempted murder charges, as if he were calculating consequences before committing violence. The defense team countered every revelation with their own narrative. Marcus was under extreme stress. This was an argument that tragically escalated. There was no premeditation, and the injuries, while serious, were being exaggerated for civil lawsuit purposes. The case became a media sensation. Cable news devoted entire segments to it. Online communities debated every detail. The classic debate raged. Would wealth buy a different kind of justice? 6 weeks into the investigation, prosecutors received an anonymous package. Inside, a USB drive. The contents would change. Everything. Someone presumably someone with access to Marcus Sullivan's personal security system had copied footage that Marcus's legal team had claimed was corrupted and unrecoverable. But It wasn't corrupted at all. The footage showed the entire incident from multiple angles, and what it revealed contradicted every element of the defense's narrative. This wasn't an argument that escalated. This was a planned, brutal assault. The victim had been lured to the location under false pretenses. Marcus had disabled certain security cameras himself, but missed the backup system that captured everything. The weapon had been prepared in advance. And most chillingly, after the initial attack, Marcus had paused, looked directly at one camera he didn't know was recording, and said words that would echo through the courtroom. "No one will believe you anyway." The supreme confidence that wealth would protect him, that his word would carry more weight, that his lawyers could bury the truth. But technology doesn't care about bank accounts. When prosecutors presented this evidence to the grand jury, the charges were upgraded. What had been assault with a deadly weapon now included enhancements for premeditation, lying in wait, and great bodily injury. The potential sentence jumped from 4 years to 15 to life. Marcus Sullivan's legal team immediately cried foul, claiming illegal evidence tampering, chain of custody issues, anything to get the footage excluded. Emergency hearings were held. Legal experts debated on television, but the judge's ruling was unambiguous. The footage was authentic and admissible. Justice, for once, was cutting through the smokescreens that money tried to deploy. The victim, now recovered enough to speak publicly, gave a statement that went viral. "I survived not because I'm strong, but because that security officer heard me scream." Marcus Sullivan thought his money made him untouchable. Today, he learned it doesn't. The trial became one of the most watched in recent memory. Every day brought new revelations. Expert witnesses, forensic specialists, psychological evaluators, and finally, the victim's testimony. 3 days of detailed, excruciating, powerful truth-telling. Marcus Sullivan never took the stand. His lawyers advised against it. Instead, they built a defense around diminished capacity, extreme emotional disturbance, and the argument that wealth actually made their client a target for exaggerated accusations. The jury deliberated for 2.5 days. The verdict, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. The victim's family wept. Marcus Sullivan showed no emotion, his face the same cold mask that surveillance footage had captured on the night of the assault. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. The judge, a veteran of 30 years on the bench, delivered a statement that summarized the entire case. Wealth brings opportunities, but it does not bring immunity from justice. The evidence in this case shows not just a violent assault, but a pattern of behavior in which the defendant believed his financial status placed him above the law. This court categorically rejects that premise. Justice is not for sale. Marcus Sullivan was sentenced to 12 years in state prison with no possibility of early parole. His assets were frozen pending massive civil suits from the victim. The mansion scene of so much violence was eventually sold at auction, with proceeds going toward restitution. But here's where the story gets truly unsettling. This case isn't unique. Across the country, wealthy individuals commit acts of violence and leverage resources to escape accountability. Most never become public knowledge. Most victims are silenced through settlements and NDAs. Most cases are handled quietly. This one was different only because a security officer heard a scream, because one camera stayed recording, because a victim refused to be silenced, because anonymous evidence appeared at exactly the right moment. Detective Chun, reflecting on the case in a later interview, said something haunting. "We solved this one. But I think about all the other properties in that neighborhood. All the other massive homes with security systems that only the owners control. All the other employees who've signed NDAs. What else is happening behind those walls that we'll never know about?" The victim has chosen to remain anonymous, protected by law. But they did release one final statement. Money can buy lawyers, PR teams, and settlements. but it can't buy back your soul. It can't erase what you did. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes it can't protect you from consequences. Marcus Sullivan is currently serving his sentence at a medium security facility. His appeals have been denied. His business empire has collapsed. His name, once synonymous with success, is now associated with violence and downfall. But the question that haunts this case, the question that should disturb all of us, is this: how many times did his wealth protect him before? How many other victims exist that we don't know about? How many other privileged individuals are out there, believing themselves untouchable, committing acts of violence, and using money to make it disappear? This case exposed one truth: wealth can delay justice, complicate it, even disguise it for years. But it cannot, ultimately, prevent it. At least not when evidence is preserved. When victims speak out. When anonymous whistleblowers emerge from the shadows. The mansion stands empty now. New owners have renovated extensively, trying to erase the history soaked into its marble floors. But in this community, everyone remembers. The illusion of safety has been permanently shattered. And somewhere, in a prison cell far from luxury and privilege, a former millionaire faces every single day the consequences he once thought his money would forever prevent. Justice isn't always swift. It isn't always certain. But in this case, against all the advantages wealth could deploy, it finally arrived. The question isn't whether money can protect you from consequences. The question is, for how long? And in this case, the answer was devastating: not long enough.